Welcome to another episode of Love and Law. This is episode 5. We've made it through another one, dear. Today we're going to be talking about what is legitimation, and we're going to be discussing fighting for fatherhood. Tessie, what are your thoughts?
Okay. Well, I think the first thing to do is to let people know what legitimation is, because a lot of times we get fathers that come to our firm and they don't understand truly what legitimation is in Georgia. Family law changes from state to state, so I'm only speaking about Georgia. I'm only licensed in the state of Georgia, so my advice comes as a practicing attorney in the state of Georgia. And in Georgia, the only way that you can become a legitimized father to your child is through the court system. If you're not married to the mother when the child is born, then you have to go to the courts to have your child legitimized.
So in Georgia, what does it mean if I sign the birth certificate? What does that mean?
It means you have a nice keepsake to memorize the birth of your child. So it doesn't matter if you sign the birth certificate. It does not matter if the child has your last name. It does not matter if the child has lived with you until they're 5, 6, 8 years old. There's only 2 ways to establish legitimation in Georgia, and that is being married at the time of birth or going to court to have your child legitimized. But I want to back up a little bit. A lot of fathers come to us, as you know, and they will use legitimation and custody interchangeably, and it's not the same thing. Legitimation is what gives you the right to inherit. If you die without a will and your child is not legitimized, then the state will not recognize that child as being your child legally. Back in the day, it's what your grandmother used to call a bastard child. It means a child born out of wedlock. And so if a father dies and he doesn't have a will, then that child would not be an heir to inherit from you. And so what fathers come to us, they're seeking joint custody. They want custody rights as a father. They want parenting time that's locked in. And so what we normally do is file for a petition for legitimation and custody and parenting time all in one, because you have to legitimize the child to open the door to get custody. So just want to make sure that people are clear that legitimation opens the door so that you can gain custody of your child, joint custody, primary custody, sole custody, whatever. But you have to legitimize the child, and it's usually done in that same petition. So just kind of getting that out the way. And so, go ahead.
Well, no, that was a lot. I guess a previous episode we had spoken about when I had asked Tessie if I could call her later with the number that she had given me. What was news to me was I wrongfully assumed that because I had signed the birth certificate, that gave me some kind of rights here in Georgia over my daughter. And then during that process, I came to find out that I was no different than the uncle or the neighbor, which to my surprise, I was frustrated and didn't know how I was going to make all these things work, because it just sounded crazy to me that I had been there somewhat off and on. I think it was a lot more on than off, but nonetheless, I couldn't move with her the way that I felt that I should be able to do.
And that depends on the state, because where I was born and raised in Florida, signing the birth certificate would legitimize the child. It just doesn't here in Georgia. And so I honestly don't even know if that was the case in Indiana. Maybe it was. But in Georgia, that won't get it done. So you had to legitimize her and file for joint custody.
And then that was the next part of, now you have to prepare yourself to fight, because it's a I guess I'm thinking, in like what she said, now that the child is legitimized, what is this? I had no clue what this word was, and I thought, okay, now that she's legitimized, I can go pick her up from school when I want. I could move around and do these things. I can pick her up from school. I can take her to the doctor. I don't have to ask your permission. If I go to the school, I can just take her. I don't need to ask you, not knowing that there was a whole nother part to this, that we needed to set up visitation. What do you mean? So I need to go to court to set up a schedule of when I can have my child, and then we have to agree upon it. It just, all of it together sounded crazy, because I felt like someone else was dictating the father that I got to be, and it wasn't necessarily me. And it felt like I had no control, but mom had a lot more of the control, not being educated, that I didn't know that it was a process to kind of get some of these things on paper and get some kind of structure to it. So it was just naively and immaturely, I had an expectation that it was going to be, I guess, a little bit more my way, and it wasn't. It was one sided.
Well, this is a conversation we have all the time, and a lot of times we are on opposite ends of this conversation, Charles and I. But the of course you have to have a parenting plan. There has to be a plan. If you guys aren't together, your daughter's mother have her life and you have your life. You can't just come pick up the child when you want to pick up the child and think, oh, well, we have to agree on this time and we have to agree on that time. Of course you have to agree on the time because, again, she has her plans and you have yours. And sometimes the best plan is a playbook on where the baby's supposed to be at any given time. So you're not both making plans for her on Wednesday at 5 o'clock. You can't read her mind. You should not expect her to read your mind. Everybody thinks their plans are more important. So you have a parenting plan in place so that everybody knows where she's supposed to be at any given time. Is it your time? Is it my time? All this fighting back and forth about she need new shoes and she need a this or that. Okay, well, we have a set amount of child support. It's supposed to be paid on this day. It is this set amount. So we don't have to have these. Some of these conversations start to get crazy and redundant, and you can tell there's a lot of tension and emotions and hurt feelings and I don't like you and everything but the child involved. And so if we know where she's supposed to be when she's supposed to be there, if we know how much you're supposed to pay, when you're supposed to pay it, and how that payment should be delivered, it should cut down on at least 50 to 60% of the arguments, because the back and forth about her being pissed off because you won't give her $75 for a coat for the baby, but I just paid the child support. She want okay. Let's just create some minimum
I can
rules
definitely
here.
Having went through it now, I can definitely appreciate what you're saying. But not being able to manage my emotions at the time and my expectations, because it was normally I don't come into things with expectations. I feel like, but in that I had an expectation, or I had a desire. I had an idea in my head that it was going to look like this. And then when I found out that it wasn't that way, it was, I don't know, off-putting. It was frustrating. So again, at this point in life, I could appreciate having a plan, having a structure, having a foundation. This is the starting point. Not understanding that the decisions that I make once I have this piece of paper, that you're also teaching the other person on the other side how to treat you. That was something that we would go back and forth about a lot, that you're saying, okay, you said you were going to do this and then you don't do it. You made this commitment to this and then you don't hold that person to it. And I didn't understand then the longevity of it. I didn't get at that point of, okay, what I'm doing for the reason that I set this plan up, this is something that's supposed to be in place for the next 10 years. This is going to teach us what we need to do, and hopefully we'll be able to transition from this. But I didn't understand that when something didn't go the way that it was supposed to happen on that parenting plan, it's there for a reason. And if you don't hold that other person to it, then it's a snowball. And then now you're dealing with something that could have been corrected or negated had you addressed it then. That was the point of the parenting plan. So it was a learning process. And now I can understand when you would say, hey, you need to be doing this and this and this. And I had so many voices and different people saying, do this, do that, do. Okay, but what is it that I want? I feel like everybody's saying, you need to do this, you need to do this. And in being immature, not understanding where they were coming from and what the reasoning was behind it. I only heard, do this. And even though they were trying to explain it, I was done listening to what everybody else was trying to explain. And I know it was frustrating to you, because you felt like I know that you were telling me stuff from a good place now.
Okay. So here's the thing from my perspective. Let me be clear, crystal clear. Any advice that I gave you about your daughter had nothing to do with you, had nothing to do with her mom. And I told this to you, and I told this to her mom. That where I was in the relationship, fortunately and unfortunately, I had fallen in love with your daughter. And as I told you and her mom, I would have fought either one of y'all about her. And I was serious about it. Like I fell in love with this little curly mop of curls and this little sweet baby, and it had nothing to do with y'all and what was best for her. And when you and her were fighting, it didn't matter what was best for her. So when I'm having a conversation with you, it's not from your mom's point of view who just want her grandbaby, or your daughter's mother who's pissed off at you or you pissed off with her or whatever. I'm just saying this baby has an expectation. She's planned, she's ready for this, whatever. So regardless of what fight y'all had going on amongst y'all, put the child first. And putting her first was bigger than you being mad at her mom. It was bigger than her mom being mad at you, to me. But again, it wasn't my emotion, so I can understand, having the emotional part of it too. But it was just what is best for the child. She needed the consistency that didn't get toyed with when you and mom are arguing. And so, as you know, there were times that I went and picked her up, and I met the mother because you and the mom weren't speaking to each other. So I would meet her and pick up the child because y'all were not in a place to meet each other to pick her up. There would be times that she would be arguing with her mother, and she would call me and ask me to come pick her up, and I'm on my way. And I meant that as I told her mom, if she called me, I'm coming. I want you to know if she called me, I'm coming. Whatever the hell that meant, if she called me, I'm coming. So, but her mom knew, I love your daughter, like I gave birth to her, and I would never do anything but treat her like I gave birth to her, and trying to support you in that. And I heard from you all the time about what is it that I want. And like I say all the time, you're grown, the mother's grown. I should care about what you want, but at the end of the day, I felt like this is a decision that y'all adults make, we adults make as parents, and it's this child's childhood one time. You get one time to do it right. She's never going to be in third grade again. Figure it out now, because third grade only comes one, and she need to have the best third grade she can have. Whatever we can do to support that is what we needed to do. And if that meant we had to sacrifice a little bit, egos aside, then do that. Because she's going to live with whatever decisions we make right now in this moment. And that was it.
Well, I think I guess now going through it and having lived a little bit longer, I can understand that some of those expectations that you have as a child, I don't even know the way to say it. It's your childhood traumas that you have.
Yeah.
And growing up, you'll say, all right, my parents did this, I'm going to absolutely do it a different way. And unfortunately, I lost my father young. And at times, I can look back at it now, I tried not to get too attached to people because I was expected, you're going to leave. So there's no need to get attached. And during some of that transition period, yes, this is the kind of parent my parent was. These were the things that I liked and I didn't like. But I can also look at it now and see that through all this fighting and going through this and feeling like I had no control, it was, I'm going to do the right thing, but I'm not going to be too attached to you. Because I feel like the way that this is on the other side, or the way that I felt like the courts was handling me, she can take her away and her mom can do whatever she wants, and I'm just left to deal with it. And it's easier to say you need to manage your emotions when you're going through this, but it's a different scenario when you're actually the one that's going through it and you're trying to manage your emotions, and you have that little person that's talking to you that's saying, look, she's going to be gone. You can't control her. You don't need to get that attached.
But by little person, you mean little yourself?
Little child. The child in you that's kind of showing out while you're going through this. So
but see, on the other side of while you're going through that, we're married. And then little Tessie is also having the same conversation and saying that you need to be present, as a girl who didn't have her father. And so I'm watching you let the conversation that you're having with her mother dictate whether or not you're in her life, and understanding that it's going to affect the child. You will grow, you will get over it. You and I are married, happily married. Okay, we stay married another 50 years till death do us part. Her mom moves on. She is left with the consequences of what decisions you make or do not make. And as a child who didn't have a father involved, it was very important to me as your wife to support you through the emotions of not wanting to be present when it got hard, or not wanting to be present because her mother was being difficult. And so I'm supporting you from a selfish place myself, wanting you to give your daughter what I didn't have. And I understand the emotions that you had, because we talked about it a lot and it got very taxing for you. But, this is where our intersection, you fight or flight. I'm going to not get attached. And we would have an argument often because I wanted you to be more attached. Because a little Tessie and me wanted you to be attached to your daughter because my father wasn't attached to me. And being married to you meant that you needed to be attached to her for me. And that was selfish on my part. But I wanted her to have what I didn't. And that was you showing up regardless of what she was going through with her mom. I don't give a damn about her mom. I mama can leave tomorrow.
I can appreciate that. I can appreciate that now. But at the time, again, in the moment, when you're trying to manage those emotions and being 25 and being 35, it's a lot of life experience and life lessons that you go through that kind of help you understand that. And at the time, it wasn't fathomable. It just didn't. I get what I totally agree with what you were doing and why you were doing it and how we got there. It was so different. It was just different trying to manage all that because I don't want to say they felt like attacks, but it just felt like there was so much coming from everywhere. And then we have this blended family where I get to see
my children,
your children, and then I'm saying to myself, like, you have say, you get to dictate, you have more control of dictating this, and now I'm fighting just to have the couple of weekends that I have, and then I'm learning about you have to legitimize this child. Like, what? This is a word I never even heard of, and I'm naively thinking, and you said it, from state to state, it's different. Okay, I went to go pick her up from school and we had an argument and now she's saying bring her back. I'm not bringing her back. And then you're saying, Charles, you didn't go to court. You have to take her back. Mm-hmm. What? Wait a minute. I'm getting told what to do, and it was just so frustrating that you can change your mind on a dime, and then I have to move the way that you're saying that I have to move, but also now understanding, well, you didn't go to court. And then when we get that paperwork put in place, something like that happens, but you don't say, or I don't, wait, well, we have a parenting plan. This is what it is. So no, I'm not bringing her back, or this is my Christmas. I don't care what you say. I'm going to pick her up and we can deal with it later. But in trying to be the peacemaker and not argue, now I'm setting myself up for future failures. That was, it just was a lot.
But through all of the fights and the arguments and all of that, there was a focus on making sure that you had the opportunity to have her consistently and that you didn't have to have her only when you and her mother was not arguing, which is everything. You don't get to tell me I can be a father when you need a babysitter, or I don't get to just be a father because you're in a good mood or whatever. So making sure that you were in a position that you didn't have to always feel like that. It was a short-term thing. We have to go through this process so that you can be the father that you want to be. And
with my wife talking about things 10 and 11 times, it was what I needed. And she stayed on me even when I didn't want to talk about it. And look, think about this. I want to talk about it. Okay. And then 20 minutes later, hey, we need to talk. You need to think about this. I told you I won't talk about it. Then the next day, or waking me up. Hey, have you thought about, girl? You what you're saying? It makes sense. So I have to be thankful that I had you there too, even when I didn't want to do the right thing or want to hear it. That you were there constantly in my ear saying that's not okay. Don't do that.
But see, here's the thing. What a part of that too is with all of the frustration that was going on, let's not deal with that and talk about it in her presence. That was huge. And so when she came over to our house, I wanted her to just be a child, just be whatever, 4-year-old, 8-year-old, 10-year-old, just be a child. And we're not going to talk badly about your mother, even though she would come over and your friends would call and she would dog you so bad everywhere in the world. When the baby came over to our house, you just get to be a child and you get to play with the children and you get to be a child. And it was more, I wanted it to be more of a sanctuary where you didn't have to be involved in grown folks' business. And I remember asking her when she was 9, like, what do you want when you turn 9? What do you want for your birthday? You remember what she said?
Mm-hmm. I want both my parents to live to on the same street. It was something along
She
the
was
lines.
younger than that, Deb. That was a comment she said when she was 5 years old. She wanted us to buy a house on the same street as her mom so she could have her family. When she was 9 years old, and I asked her what she wanted for her birthday, she said, "I want to come live with y'all." Um, and it was just that conversation of her sparking that, "Can I come live with y'all?" at 9 years old. And so we kind of went back and forth with that, and then she ended up eventually coming to live with us. And it was just kind of whatever she needed, whatever she wanted. She, you know, ended up moving with us, and then
And to some defense, both parents, I think we all have our struggles. The ex,
mhm,
her ex, my ex, we're not perfect. We both have our struggles, and I think we've all learned some things from these from these situations that we could have done them better. I feel like there's a lot of things that I could have did better. I feel like um, your ex husband, there's things that he probably feels the same way, and my ex probably feels the same way, and hopefully
I definitely feel
it
that way. There's a
it
lot
it
I could have done better.
I'm not. We all have our strong qualities. I think both of them, they have their scenarios where they are good parents. It's just in the beginning we were bumping heads about a lot. It just, unfortunately, I wish we could have got it together sooner so that it would have been better overall for the kids. But if you take something away from it, that communication and having a parenting plan and trying to work through it, and in the beginning, staying focused on what that says until you get to a point that you guys can
Deviate a little bit.
negotiate and change it, and that's great. And again, I wish this scenario would have been different, but I think both of those outside parents are good parents. It's just that they were in their emotions the same way that we were, so it sometimes lended itself to turmoil. But I don't think they're bad people.
Well, for me, the whole point of legitimizing your child is just to make sure that you have access, consistent access to your child, regardless of what the emotions are, when the emotions come into play, when the new significant others come into play, because you guys had already broke up before I met you, and you're already having issues, which is what our first real serious conversation was about. How can you get more access to your daughter? So I just think that making sure that you legitimize your child if you're not married to the mother, so that the father that you are is not dictated by your emotion, your new romantic partner, her new romantic partner, because eventually both of you are probably going to start dating, and then you have two more personalities and two more sets of, you know, thoughts and considerations to take into place, but it's all should be the same one focus, and that's the child or the children that it is at issue. The other thing too, I think a lot of men, because they're dating, they won't legitimize their children. Like, we're still together, and eventually we're going to get married. We're living in the same house, and I just feel like when the child is born, you want to make sure that you're the legal father, the legitimized father. And if you don't know, now you know. Signing that birth certificate does not give you any rights. So if you guys break up and she moved out of state, there's nothing you can do to make her stay in Georgia. Signing the birth certificate, living in the house, nothing. Y'all break up on Monday, she moved Monday night. She can do that. Legally, there's nothing you and anybody else can do to stop her, because you're not married, so you don't have joint custody. And me and you have the same right to your child. And of course, I don't know your child. So that's just something to think about. A lot of men get legitimized and get joint legal custody, and they're living in the same house. We're going to get married in a year or two. Okay, but until that happens, let's get some formality around your rights as a father so that you guys are on the same footing as both being legal parents to the child. And it's not just the permission that she allows you to have.
There's another part too that I think fathers don't they think about, but they try to avoid it when it comes to the expenses. The father that's there with your child in the house, and you guys plan on getting married, I think and you can probably explain that a little bit better. Of you can file the paperwork to legitimize your child, and it's something that's not um, overly expensive. But when it comes to fighting for custody and visitation, then that is something that I remember paying for an attorney, and I don't know if their retainer was.
See, but this is the thing that kills me. This is the thing, and I'm just gonna call it on the dime. Men will say, "Oh, it's expensive," but what is expensive? If you say, "Okay, I'm gonna get an attorney and I'm gonna legitimize my child and fight for custody," let's just throw a wild number out there and say, "Oh my gosh, it cost me 25,000." Men will spend more than 25,000 on getting a car or getting a motorcycle. You have a car; it's a second car, it's a toy car. You spend eight. Let me finish. You spend $700-800 on some shoes and spend all this money on everything else, and then when it comes to buying to get an attorney to make sure that you have rights to your child, then it's, oh my gosh, this is so expensive. If your child is in your situation a 3-year-old, so we're talking about the father you get to be, which determines the life of this young lady that you chose to create for the rest of her life, and then it's like, oh, it's gonna be expensive. It's gonna be expensive. Choose your lawyer wisely. Lawyers have different prices, just like shoes and cars and anything else have different prices. Choose one that you can afford. However, you need to start the process, and the expenses shouldn't be a barrier. If you have to figure it out yourself and download the documents and do it yourself, you're probably not going to get the same result as if you had an experienced attorney, but you can legitimize and get joint custody of your child. So this whole thing coming back to, oh, it's expensive, it's expensive. You do what's important to you. You find a way to pay for what's important to you. People will come and say, oh my gosh, it costs this much money, but you got a $500,000-$600,000 home. You drive a $100,000 car and got a toy car on the side and got on your Gucci Louis, but you're talking about how much it costs to gain access to your child. So it's about getting your priorities together. It's either important or it's not. And to use the excuse of it being expensive as a bar, and you don't have the money for that, and then next week you booking a trip to go to a game on a vacation with your boys or your new girlfriend or something. So all of this flap about it being expensive, okay, you get what you pay for. You get to be the father. You either figure it out or you make excuses, and then the baby goes from 2 months old to 12 years old, and then when you finally go to court, now we're complaining about, oh, she won. It's not a priority for you. And then they wait until the child has established a whole routine and a whole life, and they've been going to this school from kindergarten to 3rd or 4th grade, and he or she plays soccer, and they do all of this and whatever, and the mom has been operating primarily as a single parent the child's whole life. But now that you have a new girlfriend who's pushing you on it, or the mother put you on formal child support, now you want to legalize it and everything, and then they want to act like a victim. And of course, this is not everybody, but you can't just sit back and let it blow with the wind, be like, oh, it's going to be so expensive, until something happens that pushes you to do it. And now you're mad at the system and saying that you got jilted and you got taken advantage of, and the courts are so one-sided. Well, if we're talking about an 8-year-old and mom has been the primary and the child has lived with the mother 8 years, and she's been the primary parent for 8 years, and you come get them every other weekend for 8 years, when you come in and say, I want 50-50 custody, I want custody, and the child's been living with her for 8 years, that's not going to be an easy task.
So when I was speaking of it was expensive, I didn't know, because this was the first time that I had ever been through it. Yes, I had purchased a bucket before. I had even purchased a car, so I understand that cars come with different level price tags. I didn't think that going through this situation would cost as much as a car cost. I assumed these are papers. How are these papers in this argument costing me thousands of dollars? I was more making that statement because to some of the fathers that come in there, that don't have any expectations or haven't been through it before, they may be thinking, which I get in some of these consultations, I thought it would be a couple $100. There's going to be hours that are going to be put into this. I'm not. I definitely think that you'll find the money for the things that you think are important. And if you're saying your child is as important as what you're telling me on the other side of it, or what I was saying, in my case, we found the money, several $1,000s that I had to pay to an attorney. I just wasn't expecting that. So when I'm saying that they're expensive, and you get what you pay for, you can get you some shoes from a lower line of store, you can get you some Gucci Louis, and when it gets wet, the sole's coming off. Regardless of you can get an attorney that just is going to file the paperwork, isn't really caring about what your needs are as a father, and you're going to get a minimum parenting plan. And there still are other factors that go into that. When I was making that statement, is that It's going to be expensive, and my expensive and your expensive can be different, but it's not going to be a $500 thing. Was my point that I was just going to eventually get to. A good attorney is going to cost you some money. I had never been in trouble. I had never had a situation where I needed an attorney for anything. The only basis that I had to use was when I see somebody on TV, they're talking about an attorney is expensive, but I had nothing tangible to put with that. Attorney's going to cost you a significant amount of money if they're worth anything. Now, sometimes you might get lucky and you find one that's just starting off that is a good attorney, but I'm not trying to ramble about that, but attorneys are expensive. I didn't know that I was going to need an attorney. I didn't know that it was going to cost several $1,000s. I didn't know that there were going to be multiple court hearings. I didn't know that I'm coming in here and this is my point for coming, and there's a process to it. You can't just go in there and say, well, she did this, and this, and this, and this happened. We're not here to hear all that today. That's going to be in the next court date. Or we need to assign this.
Okay, so there's a process to it. There's a process.
And I didn't know that.
Okay. And so you're not going to come into court on the first day and get custody of your child, especially if the child's not legitimized. So that's what he's talking about the process. You have to legitimize your child to get access to custody. And by the time that we went to court to do this, if the child, again, is 5 years old and she's lived with mom exclusively for 5 years, you're not walking in and get what you want. Because, again, it's not about what you want. It's about the child. And when we're talking about what's expensive to you is not expensive to someone else.
Agreed.
And for me, someone who's been practicing 20 years, I'm not for everybody. I'm not a cheap attorney. I have a lot of experience. Our firm collaboratively have over 75 years of experience. So I'm not the attorney. If you make $45,000, $50,000, I'm not the attorney for you because my experience level is not a new attorney. There are attorneys at every price point. You can find someone fresh out of school that's going to do it for a certain amount of money. You're going to find people with 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, and just your attorney, find someone. My point is, you need to find someone that you can afford, of course. But to me, it's really not about the money. It's more about the connection and the trust that you have and the rapport that you build with that attorney. You're trusting them about something so serious, and that's the type of parent that you will be able to be with your child or your children. So money should not make a decision, should not be the basis at all for coming up on that. We've had clients that make 45 or 50 years and they literally get a job driving Uber on the weekend and the evening so that they could pay for an attorney. Legitimation, because you're making it such an issue. We've had legitimation cases complete and done and out the door that are $6,000, $7,000, and we've had legitimations that are $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. And it really just depends on your level of fight and what it is that you're asking. And every case is different. Every case is different. If you're a father who works all the time and you're out of town or you're so far away that we can't do 50-50 or something, you're coming in saying, I just want a standard, that what I like to call a 1980s parenting plan where you just pick up the child Friday at 6 to Sunday at 6 and share the holidays. That's not a argument that we're going to go back and forth with that's going to cost you $10,000, $15,000. You're asking for the very minimum. If the child lives with mom, I just want consistent every other weekend and holidays. That's a kind of an in and out, unless mom, again, don't know the other side. She comes in and says something that's, defaming to your character and you can't be trusted with a child because of this, that, and that, then we have to take a different route. We have to file other motions. We have to do different things. If we have two capable, able parents and we agree on 80% of it, the child's going to live with you. Now we're just trying to decide, is it going to be Friday to Sunday or is it going to be Thursday to Monday, and figure out what the child support is going to be. That's kind of a straightforward case.
But some of
that's
it was
not that mountain that
I wasn't trying to go down the finances was just something I didn't want people to use as an excuse. It was just something that I wanted to bring up so you know that it's there. It's you're gonna have to pay for it. You have to pay for it. That was my point in making that. The things that you brought up behind it, I think, were great. It was just that understanding that you're gonna have to pay for it, and you need to know what you're getting into. A lot of dads will, again, in for mine, not saying that I just had it like that or I had a whole bunch of money. The finances weren't for each dad that I talk to, it's either it's one-sided or it's going to cost too much. In my scenario, I just felt like it was more one-sided than it was about the finances. That was just a small part of it. So that was just, I made that statement again. So now you have that to think on. And
But what made you think it was one-sided?
what made, because I started off with it being one-sided. Yes, we had been off and on, but we were more on than we were off. And I'm trying to be involved, but I have to. First off, me signing the birth certificate, I thought that was something. I thought that legitimized her. Mm-hmm. Then when I found that out, it's like you have to go to court. Okay, so that's cool. We need to go to court to get this straightened out. But she can put me on child support, and I still don't have visitation. How does this work? How can you put me on?
Okay, but why didn't you educate yourself? You're like, how did it work when you got?
I didn't know. This was, but again, This was part of all of that process. You said, why didn't I? Mm-hmm. Hell, when I was talking to you, you were the one educating me on that. No.
Before that, when she put you on child support, if she signed you up for child support, why not take that again? Because some of this is on you. You're college educated by then. You had a degree. You're an adult. You're engaged. You own a home. You own a car. You have a career, and you get served with child support papers. Why not put it on you as her father to educate yourself? What does this mean? What are my options?
I was educating myself as I went through it. It was when I decided to get a house. I didn't immediately get the house. It was the time frame of applying for the loan, finding out you need earnest money.
When she put you on child support, why not legitimate the child then?
I didn't even know that was part of the process. But that's what I kind of found out about all of it all at once.
What I'm saying is, in this scenario, in your scenario, mm-hmm. when she put you on child support, the legitimation still didn't come to almost a year later. That's what I'm saying. It had to be very pain. We got to the point of a very serious pain point with mother's boyfriend before we moved forward. It wasn't because of you and her. And we were having the conversations. And what I'm trying to say is we were comfortable. It wasn't a whole lot of this and that. You were very reluctant to go down the court process because, oh, I heard this and I heard that. And then you had some serious walls to climb. There was a lot of arguments between me and you. And all the arguments between you and your daughter's mother had just hit a point with me. Like, y'all are going to have to take care of this, or this is going to be an issue for me and you. Because it was always hey, I need to do this. And it seemed like every time it was time for you to pick up your daughter, it was a renegotiation. Every time it was, well, how about this? Well, can we meet at this place instead of that place? Can we meet at this time instead of this time? And it was no stability, and it was all over the place. So not until there were a very serious situation on her end that you decided to move forward. So what does it take is what I'm trying.
It took that very situation.
For you to say enough is enough.
It took for that very serious situation for me to say enough of it, enough. That circumstance that we were talking about, that is kind of when it said it was enough is enough. You had been talking to me, and then it was some of my concern that I may have voiced to you once kind of coming true, and now it's okay. Now you have to do something. You've tried to work it out without the court being involved for this amount of time, and you're doing the same thing with getting the same result. Mm-hmm. And now some of the things that me and you had talked about, now they were happening. So it was, now that she's been put in a not favorable situation, okay, now you need to do something. It's
so part of that part when you say I plan everything is that not that I'm a fortune teller by any stretch, but the ability to see around corners, the gift of discernment.
I didn't have that.
If we are doing the same thing 6 times and we keep getting the same result 6 times, it's time to step left and move forward. Let's do something different, because this clearly is going to end the same way. It's almost like it developed a rhythm, and I used to tell you that all the time. This is y'all cycle. It's like 1, 2, 3, boom. 1, 2, 3, boom. It start to feel like we're doing a waltz. We're doing this dance. Like it's always this same thing, so time and time again. Like,
unfortunately,
I'm enough. We're going to do something different.
Unfortunately, it had to be
lived.
It had to be lived. I couldn't be taught that lesson. I had to pay for it on my own. And ultimately, there was something that happened that couldn't be negotiated or talked about anymore. Now it's time to start moving on this, because it can play out in a way that I'm not okay with. Like, I'm not willing to negotiate this anymore.
So if you had to do over again, what would you do different?
If I had to do it over again,
The right answer, because I know which ones. The right answer. ah. If you had to do over again, come on, say it with me.
If I had to do it over again, I would have went to court sooner.
Okay.
And I would have been mindful to make sure that we follow the parenting plan, to make sure that if it was something that happened or a situation that happened, I held her accountable for not following that.
In the beginning, and then you just would have got to that place that it worked out sooner, because it's not like a rigid parenting plan. Do that. I understand what you're saying, though. If we had followed the parenting plan in the beginning, because Charles would always try to be the bigger parent and say, oh, okay, well, we can switch, because she would call and ask for a favor. Can we do this? And he would say, yes, 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 yes. And then I'm talking about 38 hot when it was never reciprocated. Or it'd be his weekend and she just simply say, oh, too bad, I got family coming in. She's not coming this weekend. And he'd be ready to pop a gasket, and I'm cooling him down, literally like, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. And he ready to get in the car and make a trip. And I'm like,
but we will.
Let's not do that.
Yeah, we
yeah.
Trying to, and I need to do better about it. We'll try not to badmouth the other parents.
Mm-hmm.
There was, in our previous episode, some things where I said I was allowing him to be a parent. I wasn't allowing him to do anything. It was a wrong choice of words, but we've now grown, and in telling our story, not to make them seem like bad people. So
I really don't think that they're bad people. I just think everybody involved, we were young and learning. And I think everybody involved, like most of you, have some childhood, I wouldn't call it trauma for everybody, but you just have things in your childhood that play out for you as a parent that we all wish that we would have done better. Our exes are no different than us, where we wish that we could have parented differently.
And their story probably sounds totally different on the other side. I mean, your reality is your truth. So
yeah,
it was a learning experience, but I just say all that fathers, during your fight, you need to educate yourself. It's easier said than done, but you need to manage your emotions. And you also need to understand that you can do it yourself, and you can expect one thing. You go get a custom dress or suit from the store. It fits you. It fits your body. You go buy one off the rack at a local store. That's not for you. That's one size fits all. That's the kind of parenting plan that you're going to get. So, but I still say all that to say, you want it custom and you want it to suit your situation, you're gonna need to hire an attorney, and it's not gonna be $100. So for those people that say, "Oh, I thought it was gonna be $500," I'm sorry, it's not.
The legacy, protecting your rights to your children and your children's children, 7 generations to come. That's what it's about. So if you have a question about legitimation and how to accomplish that for yourself, for your children, then give us a call. We'd love to help. Charles would love to talk to you.
Hey fellas, it's Charles again with TDE, Family Law and Divorce Attorneys. I just wanted to give you a little bit of information. Tell you what we're here to do, but I understand that you're probably looking at this because you're going through some type of situation that we can assist you with, whether it's your baby mom, whether it's your soon-to-be ex-wife, whether it may be just a parenting thing that you're going to help another family member with out. It's trying, it's stressful. This is a marathon, not a sprint, so nothing's going to happen quickly. The other thing that I want to point out to you is we're here as a resource. Whether you watch our social media ads, whether you tune into our podcast, you can like and subscribe, but hopefully from watching this, there's going to be more information that you can get. One way that you can get one of those resources is just by calling our office. We have people that are there to answer the phones, and they may be able to point you in the right direction. I know that you may have friends or buddies that have went through the court system and you're like, I'm absolutely against child support, but your child may be used as a pawn, or maybe your kindness is being taken as hostage. I'm here to tell you that me and our group of attorneys with a greatly skilled team are here to help you. Look us up on the website, and then from there you can schedule a call. Yes, sometimes these things can be expensive, but anything that you feel is worth it, you always find a way. And if you find your way to our law firm, we are here to help you through it.